All right, Shalom. I want to first start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi, YAHAWAH being the true name of the Father, Yahawashi, the true name of the only begotten Son, in the ancient Hebrew tongue. Double honor to the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth, along with the sincere brethren is also laboring and doing the work as well. All right, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, the scattered Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and natives who are the true Israelites of the Bible. All right, Shalom. So this topic is simply going to be about the food crisis that's going on in America, and not only America but worldwide. All right, so I'm gonna play a quick video pretty much explaining what's going on with the crops and how the Most High is actually plaguing plaguing the whole world with, crop depletion, which is going to result in a famine worldwide. All right, so let me first get a scripture before I get into the video. This is 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter. We start the 5th verse. It says, "Behold, said the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled." All right, and this is going into the current food system collapsing. As you see the title down here, this is from the page called Ice Age Farmer, and they're pretty much going through a food crisis right now. I'm gonna play this 20-minute video. I'm gonna stop it here and there and pull out a scripture, but it's a good video. Just check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the numerous crop failures, the record colds, the record snows, it could be easy to lose the forest from the trees, from these data points. And perhaps we've done that from time to time. But today I want to make a very deliberate effort to step back and make an honest assessment of the fact that the global food system is actively and rapidly collapsing. The damage that's being wrought right now is increasingly of a permanent nature. For instance, Australia in the drought is having to cull their herds, including the breeding stock. They are literally sacrificing generations of excellent genetics. It's lost now because they can't keep their cows alive. We've heard 25% of the pigs in the world, 1 in 4, could be lost due to African swine fever. Losses are approaching that rapidly, and new studies put it very likely that.
Let me pause right there real quick, because if you don't know, swine is an abomination to the Most High. We're not supposed to eat swine, all right? Let's pull this up real quick and we'll get back to the video. I spelled that wrong. This is Leviticus chapter 11, verse 7. It says, "And the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven footed, yet he chew the cud, he is unclean to you." All right, so the swine is not an animal that should be harvested or eaten. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why the Most High, one of the many reasons why the Most High is going to plague the world with plagues. Let's continue.
That it's going to hit the U.S. We're seeing possible shortages of sweet corn and dry beans after early winter weather arrived in Idaho, where apparently 95% of those dry bean seeds are grown. You can't undo this. You can't just recover from these kinds of losses. And that's what we want to talk about today. Moreover, and at a more human level, the farms and the farmers that are losing their livelihood. Bankruptcies rising in the US again this year. And in Europe, the new agricultural commissioner actually outright making the claim, we're losing 1,000 farms per day. And we have for years now.
1,000 farms per day. That's saying something. That's a lot of farms being lost per day. And listen to this guy's voice, man. This guy is nervous. He knows the after effect of the economy falling like it is. All right, let's continue.
And in his own words, this is a problem clearly for the farmers, but also for all society. It is a problem of food security, of our food supply. These are his words, the Agricultural Commissioner of the EU, not mine. We need to talk about this. I'm Christian, and this is the Ice Age Farmer channel. And while I try not to take myself too seriously, I am completely serious about all of what we're talking about today. It's a breathtaking situation. The global warming alarmists have told us that the planet is warming, and yet we're seeing cold temperatures off the charts across the northern hemisphere. You look at the headlines for Halloween. I started to tally these up, but I'm glad I stopped because it turns out 1,200 different places recorded in the US their coldest ever October. This is not a warming planet, folks. And indeed, 7,000 all-time cold records were set. You can see where this is happening and why I say the growing zones are shifting. What's been
7,000. That's completion.
Possible to grow in the past is no longer. We've been told snow will be a thing of the past, and yet suddenly here it is, earlier and more prolific than ever. We've been told we're not going to get rain because Earth is overheating and who knows what they're saying. And yet then we had our wettest year ever last year, and 2019 obviously incredibly wet as well, flooding throughout the Midwest, precluding planting, resulting in the worst planting season ever. And then again now in fall, extremely wet conditions across much of the country have made the harvest season impossible for a lot of folks. Rain and early snows delay the harvest in the latest blow to farmers. From North Dakota, quote, "It's bad. I'm not gonna lie. We've just been inundated with too much water." From one farmer, but also from officials, quote, "The unusual and relentless wet weather pattern has created an overwhelming situation for North Dakota farmers and ranchers. It's one of the toughest seasons on record." That's why they declared a disaster in most, by far, of the counties in North Dakota. And it's not just North Dakota, in Michigan as well. The fields, quote, "are wet, tractors are getting stuck, and the harvest is behind schedule." We can't even get into some of these fields. And that would mean that their crops may sit there over the winter. Worse yet, given all of this wetness, there's an immense need to dry the crops that are making it out. And that's not helped by the fact that there's a propane shortage, which is precluding farmers from drying off their crops, which means they will rot. After these,
Look at this guy, man. Yeah, these folks scared of their wits. But look, let me go point out a scripture real quick. Because everything that's happening right now is because of YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi, which is the name of the Heavenly Father and His Son Yahawashi. All right, so He's preparing a slaughter for the Edomites, the so-called white man, for what they have done to our people, the Israelites, these so-called blacks, natives, and Latinos. And also 2/3 of our people are gonna catch this too, because they haven't turned back to the Lord. Okay. Now let me see. Where is it? I think it's in 56. Just hold on one second. Just hold on one second. Here we go. Let me start from verse 10. This is talking about the Israelites. "Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt." This is not talking about ancient Egypt. This is talking about current Egypt, which is America. You can look on the back of your dollar and see the pyramid and the eagle, which were both symbols in ancient Egypt. Okay, so this is the new Egypt. Verse 11, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt, America, with plagues as before, and destroy all the land thereof. Egypt shall mourn, America shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. Check this. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail and the fearful constellation. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. So you know what's going on.
I'm almost at a lack of words for those folks who have struggled through a terrible planting season, who eked out a crop, just did everything they could to work those combines and get those crops out of the ground, and now find themselves helpless as there's no propane to dry them. Why is that? Well, because, quote, below average temperatures have boosted other uses of propane, residential, livestock. We were shut off demand. We were shut off from propane last week, and we've got corn to dry. Farmers are getting as little as 30% of what they need, so they literally cannot dry their crops. We also see over here, this year's wet harvest has many across the Midwest burning propane faster than the trucks can even deliver. Our infrastructure cannot tolerate these rapid changes, this global cooling, this grand solar minimum. Just as previous cycles decimated agricultural production and the populations with it as people starved. This is a serious situation. Quote, my propane suppliers called me and said, today you're going down to 40% allocation. I've only got 7% of my corn, and now we take this hit. According to Tim, who called into AgriTalk. So again, prayers going out daily to all of the producers out there. As I said, cold temperatures late in October, and now we've got 2 more of these Arctic blasts coming over the next week or 2 here in the U.S. But again, let's step back. Early snowfall putting a harvest on hold. This is in Illinois. The soybean fields covered in snow is something farmers never expect to see in October. This is just the latest blow to farmers. They said it's already been a difficult year. At this point, they're just trying to finish up and move on to next year. But I'm really sorry to say, producers, that next year will not be any better. The sun this year is even quieter than it was last year. As you can see here from What's Up With That, few sunspots this year, indicating that the sun is descending even lower into this solar minimum, and very likely into the grand solar minimum, the modern minimum. It's pretty simple, really. As I tweeted here, everything has its cycle. Day versus night, summer versus winter, the solar minimum and maximum, and then also the grand minimums, the grand maximums. And we are entering a new grand minimum now. And that comes with that territory, food scarcity and social upheaval. Like I said, it's wet out there. Arkansas, heavy rains. Alabama, wet conditions keeping people out of the field. Mississippi, wet conditions stall the harvest. Virginia, rains, slow harvest. Georgia, lots of rain, multiple freezes. South Carolina, rains, slow harvest. North Carolina, widespread hard freezes and rains. These are not outliers. I'm not cherry picking the data here, folks. There's no need to. It's everywhere. Combines getting stuck, even Arlen Suderman, it's that wet this year. And again, you can't dry your crops because there's no propane. The situation is out of control. Canada as well. Snow puts another damper on the 2019 harvest. Quote, nobody wants to see a crop go through the winter months out in the fields, but unfortunately, we're going to be at that stage because we can't get out there. Harvest only 83% complete. And we've read that the 2019 harvest is the slowest in almost 40 years, worst since 1980. Here's one gentleman saying, it's an absolute disaster there. We are a 4th generation farm, been here since 1927, and we have never experienced a year like this. But again, it's easy to see why. We've never been in conditions like this. Manitoba harvest struggles after the snow. This is more of the same, but I wanted to point out down here, this is actually going to be a huge problem for grain and livestock producers, but also for anyone that runs animals. Guys are looking at 50% of their winter feed stock still out in the field, said Campbell, who hasn't even combined his oats, which normally he uses to feed his cattle over the winter. A lot of people not able to afford to feed their animals at this point. It's not just the grains. Storm cuts Red River Valley fresh potato crop. A perfect storm of heavy rains, followed by freezing cold weather, will cut yields for the potato crop in North Dakota and Minnesota. Quote, the best estimates are 45 to 55% loss. That's half the potatoes gone. Freak fall weather could reduce U.S. potato supplies. This is from Reuters. Potatoes, quote, could be in short supply during the coming year after several fall weather events hindered harvests in key states, including Idaho. Will there be a shortage of seed potatoes? The article expects not, but, quote, this has been a really weird year in Idaho. We've had, I don't think we've ever had a fall that got cold this quick. Are you seeing the patterns? It's completely discernible by now what's going on. And I mentioned already, it's not just in North America that the potato is having issues. In Ireland, bad weather hits harvest and fears of a potato shortage. Only 30% of that national crop had been harvested before the latest storms come in, causing, again, extremely wet conditions. Here's that cannabis article. Folks, I covered this briefly before, and some people said, oh, those are drugs. This is who cares? It's good that those drugs aren't getting harvested. Two things on that. First of all, cannabis is very nutritive, and actually you should probably read up on what you're talking about. But secondly, this is a high dollar crop, and these guys are not messing around. They know what they're doing. And when you see 50%, half of a company's cannabis plants unexpectedly freezing when the temperature declines 70 degrees in one day, unexpectedly, there's a lot of money on the table being lost there. And as I said, these folks are serious about what they're doing. This isn't some closet grow from a college student. This is industrial scale. These guys are professionals. So the rapid onset of fall has caused a lot of issues across the northern hemisphere. Let's go back to Australia. I mentioned that they are culling their herds, including their breeding stock. This dairy farmer forced to cull half his herd amid the drought crisis. When I tweeted this, somebody said, why doesn't he just water them? Just give them water. People clearly don't understand that there is no water available. That's what a drought means. There's no rains, water supplies run out, water's been rationed for some time now, and it's simply not available to these folks. And now, breeding cows are being sent to slaughter. Check out these quotes about the years, the generations of genetics that are being lost. Quote, the genetics that are there are disappearing. It's quite alarming, really. It takes years to put these herds together, so it's all virtually disappearing. And how they will get them going again, I don't know. It's going to be hard to find.
They that look at the window shall be darkened, you know? These people, they see no future ahead. So, hey, if you don't have the protection of Yahawaah, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi, man, you're gonna be pretty much fucked out here, you know? You're gonna be you're gonna starve, basically. If you're a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, it's best for you to turn back to the Most High Yahawaah and His Son Yahawashi before this plague comes upon the world. Now, this is Isaiah 65:13. It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord, power, behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. See, my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. So look, the men of the Lord and the ones that believe in Yahawaah, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi are going to be protected in these hard times. that are coming upon the world, all right? So it's best for you to turn and to repent before these things take place. Isaiah 65:14, behold, my servant shall sing for joy of heart, but ye shall cry for sore heart, and howl, and shall howl for vexation of spirit. You see, so look, hell has to break loose in order for the earth to be reestablished in righteousness, all right? So you don't want to be stuck out there and not have any protection. The only way you're going to be protected is through YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi, all right? And I'll play a little bit more, then I'm going to
breeding
cut it
cattle
off.
going forward. Again, folks, we're talking about losses from which one does not simply rebound. You can't just come back next year and recover from this. Same is true of the seed shortages that are expected due to the freezing temperatures that descended on Idaho. Both sweet corn seeds and dry beans are produced in the Treasure Valley. 60% of the sweet corn seed and 95% of the world's dry bean seed. And the uncharacteristically cold weather could cost up to 1/5 of that production. Shortages should be expected, which means we can't just come back next year and grow those corn and beans back. It's going to take time to recover, even if next season is ideal. And it will not be, I assure you. Severe drought is also affecting China right now, as well as drinking water. So you can't just water your crops or your cattle in these severe conditions. These are, unlike the warming predictions of there'll never be rain, there'll never be snow, and it's going to warm until we all bake. Those have all been farcical. And yet the predictions we've made for years now about the effects of the grand solar minimum, the precipitative extremes, and the crop failures, they're everywhere now. They're impossible to ignore. So a severe drought is plaguing China, damaging crops, disrupting drinking water supplies. It looks pretty brutal out there. Speaking of China, take a look at the moves they're making to try and feed their population in the wake of African swine fever. China lifting the ban on Canadian pork and beef exports. Gotta feed their billion-plus people. They've also started purchasing pig products from Brazil after stopping shipments from, this is actually a great article, they stopped the US shipments, which made prices plummet, and then they started buying from other countries before returning now for their potential trade deal with Trump. But that's all icing on the cake of this massive losses. They're also sourcing from Ireland. 14 new meat plants will be exporting beef to China from Ireland. Isn't that weird? And even in the US, China purchased Smithfield's in, I think, 2014. And at the time, they were assuring everyone that they wouldn't just start sending back pork to China. But now that the stakes are higher, that's exactly what's going on. Smithfield's Foods, this is just 2 days ago, China is bringing home the U.S. bacon. Smithfield Foods slaughterhouse used to carve up pork for American sandwiches, but workers now box up pig carcasses to ship to China, according to employees, local officials, industry sources. The transformation at this plant shows how the global meat industry is adapting to
It's terrified. But anyway, man, look, you ain't supposed to eat no pork, no way. But look, let me get some real quick. Because the Lord is preparing a slow slaughter for you people in the worst way. This is Lamentations 4:9. It says, they that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. So it's better to be killed by a gun or a sword or some kind of weapon right away than to die of hunger. All right, for these pine away, stricken through the want of the fruits of the field. So like I said, The Most High preparing the worst way to die for you people. You're gonna pine away and die a slow, horrible death if you don't turn to the Most High Yahawashi, Yahawashi. And that's only for you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Natives, all right?
Prophet.
So I think I'm gonna stop it right there, man. If you wanna watch this video, you can go to let's go. I think it's yeah, Ice Farmer down here, Ice Age Farmer. The video is called "Food System Collapsing Actively, Rapidly, Urgent Warning." Okay, and this is produced on November 7, 2019. A lot of good information in it, man. He also goes into the elites at the end of this video, talking about how they're trying to crash the economy and cash in before the collapse because they know it's coming. So yeah, hopefully that was edifying, man. Like I said, turn back to your power, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Natives, all right, before it's too late. So with that said, Shalom.